Jackie, your question is an infinite material universe possible? And if so, how?
Yeah. So essentially, what I'm going to be asking is, if in either of your opinions, based on the knowledge of scientific research you have, whether you believe it's logically possible to have an infinite universe which is material, so excluding, you say we could say the Kalam, excluding the idea that there's a first cause of God. Do you believe that's logically possible? And if so, by what mechanism, like, would infinite regress not be a problem?
You're speaking a little bit fast for me, Jackie. Can you repeat the question just a little bit slower? I know you're trying to do us a courtesy by being quick, but I missed a little bit of that, I think.
Oh, I was just asking if, according to either of you gentlemen's understanding of current science, if you believe it's possible to have an eternal material universe that was not created by God, as presented in the Kalam cosmological argument. It, uh,
As in,
Well,
like, what are you
you there,
saying?
Jackie? Sorry, you were breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Not your fault. It's probably just poor connection. So when you say the eternal material universe, are you talking about matters of time, or are you talking about matters of scale, or both?
Um, I mean, an eternal material universe is matters of time. So basically,
Okay, in
the
time.
material universe always existed. It's an infinite timeline, and there was no first cause of God. Because the general argument from the Kalam is that essentially because within science there's a general logical principle of everything which exists has a cause. Um, there is therefore the cause must be God. I'm curious, like, if you guys believe there is a possibility that like the material universe is infinite, that infinite
gotcha.
regression is not necessarily a logical
Yeah, I
problem.
have I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I will let Eric go first, and then I will go
Uh,
off.
yeah, I have very little information to work off of because I'm not a physicist or anything like that. So I can't eliminate one or the other. I have to entertain them both as possibilities until I have a better understanding of it. I'm not sure if I ever will because beginning of the universe stuff isn't too much of a interest of mine. But there's always the issues with the idea of the Big Bang, and that's where time started for our. I've heard some people mention the local instantiation of our universe. So it's difficult for me to wrap my brain around talking about what caused time to start. Whether that's a god or some other natural phenomenon or a multiverse or anything that could potentially fill that cause in. So I really don't know.
Well,
Uh,
so you would say you're agnostic about whether it's possible for there. I'm not asking about probability. I'm asking about your understanding of possibility.
like I said, I don't know, and I can't eliminate anything and declare anything possible or impossible. I don't have enough information to work off of. So I'm pretty much just kind of neutral on the whole thing. I don't know.
I I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, this might be a logical fallacy on my part, but I thought anything which cannot be proven impossible is by definition possible.
Uh, I don't. That doesn't sit right with me because perhaps we don't have a. Perhaps there is a way to prove something impossible, but we don't know of it yet. So something could be impossible. Could be proven to be impossible, but we currently don't have an argument to establish it. So I don't know.
Okay.
Proving
I,
something
I'm
impossible means that you've got a falsification criteria. That's
yeah.
the only way to prove something impossible, right? And unless you're proposing, Jackie, a falsification criteria, it's perfectly valid for Eric to say that, hey, reserve judgment on that question, because again, no one's posited to Eric's satisfaction what that falsification criteria would even be. So his
For
agnosticism
instance,
on this question. Go ahead.
yeah. For instance, give you a preview of our next caller. We have a next caller. His question is going to be, why is there something instead of nothing? And like, I don't even know if nothing is possible. I can't declare it possible or impossible because I've never examined a nothing. Nobody's ever examined a nothing. We can only guess at what something like that would be, if that's even a coherent question. So can nothing be demonstrated to be impossible? Maybe. We have no way to do it currently. Nothing could very well be
Yeah.
impossible, but
Well,
because we
the
don't have an argument
argument.
yeah, go ahead.
The argument I've heard from some atheists regarding the problem with the existence of God, why they believe it's impossible, the heart-fixated Gnostic atheists, is they would argue
hmm
the existence of God violates the law of identity because basically, because God, especially in the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Christianity, Catholicism, and Judaism, basically creates ex nihilo. That is a violation of law of identity. The problem I have with that is that, like, saying that's impossible presupposes a metaphysical universe where God is impossible. Like, if God is all powerful, the metaphysical,
Yeah,
law of
Jackie,
identity that
I
applies
get it.
within.
We're neither Eric or I are positing that, so I don't necessarily want to spend time on the
I
show
know.
just
I'm
discussing
just passing
arguments we
out
don't
the
make.
humanity argument.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine. But so I'm gonna jump in now and answer your question from my perspective, which is probably a little bit more hard and possibly more foolhardy than Eric's answer. I agree that an actualized infinite is problematic. And so if you want to say that there's an actualized infinite of time or an actualized infinite of space by succession of addition, I agree that that creates a problem that there is an infinite regress problem. So I agree with that. And so in that sense, we're talking about time. Now, the four dimensions that we have X, Y, Z, and time is our fourth dimension. The fact that those can all go back to a 0 point tells us that this instantiation, as Eric was talking about, is finite, and I am fully on board with that and fine with it. So there's a difference between an actualized infinite and another word that you threw in there, which is eternal. And now this might be just the circles I'm in, but those are different ideas. And the idea of eternal is used sometimes by physicists in this space to talk about dimensions where time is not one of those dimensions, or as time is not one of the dimensions as we understand it. And so we cannot get past that 0 point that we have from our perspective. We just do not have tools to get before, as Eric was discussing, time. And so the notion that there might be a dimension that exists outside of our particular universe that either has more dimensions than we have or fewer dimensions than we have makes time this weird thing that we can no longer think about. And so can matter, for example, or energy is the better way to phrase it, can energy be eternal? Yeah, a lot of physicists talk about how, because we don't know if there is a time dimension outside of our universe, therefore, in that particular place, maybe energy is eternal in that sense, but it is not infinite in a sense that you were just talking about, where it's an additive, actualized infinite. And so, for me, it's very probable, not probable, it's very possible that we don't understand the dimensionality of whatever is real, whatever the cosmos is, outside of our four dimensions. And physicists are very common on this. So, to me, it makes, even though I haven't studied it, I don't understand it. To me, it seems incredibly in the realm of feasible and makes sense that because we can't speak of what those dimensions are, whatever our ideas about actualized infinites with infinite regress may not apply. And so we really we just can't say anything. It does come down to a similar answer. We can't say anything, but I think it's for a good reason. And that the problems of infinite regress don't apply in those situations. Is that an answer that in any way satisfies your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. But the only problem there would be my understanding of Albert Einstein's theory of space-time is that any universe where space exists as a dimension, time would necessarily have to exist because time is an emergent property of space. And so, unless you're saying that there's a time where space didn't even exist, there would always have to be a period of time. That makes sense. Or I do have.
Yes, I absolutely am on that page. That we don't understand what the dimensionality is outside of our universe, and so Although I do think that Einstein's model there is not entirely in favor with everyone anymore. I don't have to call Einstein wrong to point to the same thing, is that we have no idea if whatever the singularity was, or however we can say before space and before time, that's not necessarily, like, the rules don't necessarily apply there, because it might be a different number of dimensions. So it's not, I don't feel like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like I'm being inconsistent even with that new detail you've added.
I mean, do you believe it's possible for there to be a universe which exists where space isn't a dimension?
I don't think that my four-dimensional brain can grasp what universes would be like with more or fewer dimensions. Just like if I was a 2D cartoon and you were trying to discuss with other 2D cartoons what worlds might be like as a one-dimensional being or as a three-dimensional being, they're not equipped to handle the problem.
That's
I
kind of
feel
similar
like
to
we're not.
trying.
Go
That's
ahead.
similar to imagining a
Like,
universe where the law of identity doesn't apply. Like you can't. My brain is bound to
so
the
you,
rules of this reality, so I can't think of other realities that lack these rules.
so you're completely agnostic as to whether or not space is a necessary condition.
Yes, I
Is that
I,
what you're
I
saying?
couldn't.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
that there might be a type of universe that doesn't require space. That seems like a reasonable thing for me not to go have a firm stance on.
Yeah. That's the same way I can't declare a universe that lacks the law of identity as possible or impossible. Just don't know.
I understand. One, so my understanding is the Big Bang, though, it's not like the ex nihilo, right? Before the Big Bang, to my understanding, the singularity that's presented is still made of space, right? The Big Bang was just an expansion of the space broadly. So even if it's infinitely just being very large, not actual infinity, but much smaller than our current universe, there was still some small little fragment of space which existed. And even if it's just like 0.1% of point
No,
that's an insignificantly
That's not
small.
how I understand it. I'm going to get in
yeah,
trouble with
that's not how I
physicists, but
understand it at all.
that's not how I understand it at
Yeah,
all. The singularity was a single point in space with zero volume and infinite density. There literally wasn't anything dimensional to measure about it. It's a single point in a three dimension. Not even that. Like I'm already screwing it up. It's a single point. Now
that's right. A single point has no.
There
Yeah,
wasn't any space matter.
there was no
They don't
no.
believe there
space.
was space matter.
So I'm sorry. What?
Matt, you're
Scientists,
using space matter as if there's no such thing as space matter. there's
Yeah. So
there's matter.
I already tripped up in my explanation. I was almost all the way through. Then I tripped up on it because I'm thinking in my three dimensional brain here. But no,
Right.
the singularity lacked volume, and no, there was no space around it for that thing to be contained in. And I don't know how that works. That's all. I'm just parroting what I've heard physicists say. So
that it
I
was
can't go
made of
much further than
matter.
that. All
So
matter was contained
energy.
within that point
So yeah, and the
as
idea
energy.
that there might be the idea that there is, like, we have no idea if our universe is using all of the energy in the cosmos, or maybe we're using just a tiny fraction of the energy that exists. Like, we don't necessarily need four dimensions for energy to exist, is my understanding, my rudimentary understanding. So energy can exist with fewer dimensions and energy can exist with more dimensions. So again, it's irresponsible for us to make hard declarations about what it is like to live in a dimension, to describe what dimensions are with fewer dimensions or more dimensions. I guess,
Yeah. But
Jackie, does that help?
Yeah, it's a. I guess you're right. From our perspective as three-dimensional being, or four-dimensional, including time, it would be hard to grasp. It's just like, so it's infinitely dense, but like there is no volume. There's like basically some sort of matter or energy, but it's not expanded anywhere. It's just all in like a one point. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, you're dividing by you need to divide by 0, which we can't do. So
Yeah.
that's why we can't get this answer, right?
Yeah. Our mathematical
I
models break
understand.
down to the Planck time. But to kind of wrap this up to I think where you're wanting to take this, because you mentioned God earlier about how it's posited God exists outside of this system and that certain rules don't apply to him, like say the rules of logic and things like that. I can't declare that possible or impossible. I don't have enough information or knowledge or experience to declare any of those things. But I can anticipate the problems introduced if we do start entertaining that idea that there is an entity, a being, a mind, an intelligence existing outside of all of this that don't follow any of our known rules. And the issue there is that as an explanation becomes useless to us because there's literally nothing we can say, argue against, or even use to falsify it because it can just break our rules. And if that's the case, then okay, but I don't see how we can demonstrate or falsify it. If that God wants us to understand he's there and this is his system of setting it up, then I don't have much confidence in this God's intelligence.
Just to
But from
clarify,
my
I did
point of
not.
go ahead.
Just to clarify, I did not call in to intend to debate. I was just asking your
Yeah, I know.
opinion about the scientific subject. I
Yeah,
wasn't.
I'm
The
just
religion stuff is not.
okay. Yeah, I wasn't trying to put words in your mouth or argue against something you were positing. I'm sorry
I
if
know.
I
I know. I just.
made it sound like I was saying that.
I don't want this to get more heated than it has to be.
It's very heated here. Very, very heated. But yeah, I mean, it's like these are hard questions, and people have been grappling with this stuff for centuries, even millennium now. And yeah, these are great conversations to have. But like I said, from my point of view, as a starting point for demonstrating that God exists, I don't see value there unless something changes or I come to better understanding, or maybe I'm just ignorant. I'm missing something. Um, but yeah, until that happens, I don't clear possibility or impossibility or really anything in this realm.
And all I'll add is that it's helped me to discover and to adopt the distinction between eternal and actualized infinites, because infinity is so hard to just figure out on its own. So when you realize that when we're talking about eternal, we're taking time off the table, then if we just viewing those two ideas as separate has helped me come to terms with I don't know, because I don't know is
Yeah.
tough to deal with sometimes.
All right, Jackie, any last words?
Yeah, I the one final thing I will say is that so I think we both agree that it would be hard. I personally, because of my religious beliefs, do believe a God caused it all. What I will say is the problem I have with the people who claim to believe in a multiverse is that like a multiverse is you think there are multiple universes, but
Hold on, Eric.
Eric,
do you posit the multiverse?
No.
I don't posit the multiverse either. So thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Jackie. We're you're arguing against against other people now. So
yeah, it's another rabbit hole. But well, thank you, Jackie. Really appreciate it. Please call back.